James nodded his head, hearing Raul's words and understanding that they weren't maliciously said, but out of concern. I understand. I'll make sure not to make the same mistake. Raul nodded before turning his attention back to Celine. He spoke to his stepsister in a language different than common. Hearing Raul's words, Celine glanced at James before speaking in the same language as her stepbrother. James listened to the foreign language, curious what the two elves were talking about. He looked at Mim, but the cat person appeared to not be paying attention, whether because he didn't understand the language or allowing them some privacy was unknown. Sam pointed at the two tripods. Since we were expecting you to bring two animals, we set up an area you could hang them. Hopefully, they'll be able to handle the extra weight of these things, Mim said with a grin. Laughing, Sam said, Well, who told you to bring large monsters? I thought all of you were aiming for deer. Mim laughed at Sam's words. Following them, James tried to get rid of the embarrassment he was feeling, especially after Raul chastised him. Though it was reasonable, it was difficult not to let it dig into him. James breathed in, trying to not let his emotions control his thoughts. It was necessary as an adventurer to not be controlled by emotions. The life of an adventurer was harsh, and there could be instances where a group member could be killed by a bandit or a monster. They had to keep in mind not to let such trauma affect the decision-making process. Being able to not let things affect him mentally, James was successful at calming his mind. Even though the emotions still existed in the back of his mind, it was as though they were waiting for him to handle them at a more appropriate time. You good? Maya said from where she was holding up the pole. Waving his hand, both to brush aside Maya's concern, but to let her know that he was okay, James said, I need to be scolded for my mistake. Things could have gone worse, and only because of luck did it not become an issue. No one could have known that it was an irregular, Maya said in an attempt to be supportive. I know, James said. He tried to smile to let his voice reflect such an action. Maya may not be able to see him smile, but she'd be able to hear it. Footsteps made James look to see Kate had joined them. Looks like we'll have plenty for tonight. If there are any leftovers, we'll need to dry them so they don't spoil. I'm glad that we also made sure to get plenty of salt, which we'll use to help preserve the meat, Kate said as she looked at the monster they were carrying. Up ahead, Mim and Celine were lowering the wolf. Celine pulled out the pole. Grabbing the rope that tied together the hind legs, Sam grunted as he lifted the monster with both hands. Mim and Celine helped, eventually holding up the monster. At the same time, Raul used the end of the rope on top of the tripod to securely attach the rope binding the monster to the tripod. Once attached, they released the monster and let it swing freely. James lowered the monster when they reached the tripod they'd be using. With the monster on the ground and no longer needing to be carried, Maya sighed in relief. That was a heavy monster. Fortunately, the food we've been eating has helped you get stronger, Kate grinned. I feel like you could have carried this thing over your shoulder, Maya said to Kate. Rolling her eyes at the comment, Kate said, I may be strong, but even that would have me panting in exhaustion while I ran. I'd need to do it the same way as the two of you did, with a pole and another person helping me carry the thing. I still have a few levels before I could even attempt that alone. Even after reaching level 29, I still don't think I could do that, Sam commented. Maybe when you reach level 40, you'll be able to have enough strength where a force wolf doesn't feel like anything. He laughed at the thought.